At the end of the 19th century in the city of Florence, Guccio Gucci was born. His father was a humble leather craftsman struggling to survive during a time of extreme poverty in Italy. Nevertheless, against all odds, Guccio would grow up to become the founder of one of the most globally recognized fashion brands. Despite his success, however, the story for his family would not end well. This is the surreal story of Gucci. By the year 1898, Guccio, who was now around 17 years old, decided to immigrate to London in search of a better life. In that city, he found employment at the exclusive Savoy Hotel, which remains active to this day and was frequented by the London high society at that time. Guccio started working as a dishwasher, then as a bellboy, and finally as an elevator operator. Although none of these jobs provided him with more than the essentials for living, they did give him the opportunity to observe more closely the lifestyle and luxuries of the high society. There were many things about them that caught the attention of young Guccio, especially their luggage. Apparently, their suitcases were not just tools for transporting clothes and personal items, but were used as status symbols, distinguishing their owners from the crowd. With this image in mind, Guccio returned to Florence determined to learn the art of crafting leather goods, and he succeeded by working for Valigeria Franci, a renowned leather goods manufacturer that served as a supplier to royalty. What he learned working for Franci allowed Guccio to open his own shop in 1921, where he quickly made a name for himself, selling high-quality leather goods at a reasonable price. But Guccio wanted to give his brand an air of exclusivity, so he told his customers that the Gucci family had been dedicated to the manufacturing of leather goods for aristocrats for many years, and also included elements related to polo and equestrianism in its designs. This was not accidental. During his time working for the Savoy in London, Guccio had noticed the importance that polo and equestrianism held for high society, and by incorporating them into his brand, he managed to increase its perceived value in front of the most discerning tastes. But life had decided not to favor Guccio Gucci for now, and the business was unable to generate enough to cover its expenses. Quickly, Guccio found himself buried in debt and began seriously considering the possibility of closing the store for good. However, his future son-in-law saw an opportunity in this crisis to ask for the hand of Guccio's daughter, Grimalda, in marriage, in exchange for a loan sufficient to keep the business afloat. Years passed, the company continued to operate, and as Guccio grew older, one of his sons began to stand out for his ambition and interest in taking the business onto the international stage. Guccio had 6 children: Ugo, Aldo, Enzo, Grimalda, Basco, and Rodolfo. Enzo passed away as a child, and Grimalda, being a woman, did not have a significant role in the company, although it was her husband's loan that saved Guccio in the beginning. It was Guccio's sons who had a role in the company, but it was Aldo who showed the necessary mindset to make it grow. Every day after school, Aldo spent hours observing the craftsmen working with leather, and once everyone had left, he spent time sweeping and organizing the workshop, gradually becoming more involved in the family business. When he started working directly with the public, Aldo showed great skill in dealing with customers and promoting sales. And once he became older, he shared his expansion ideas with his father. Aldo was convinced that taking the brand outside Florence was the right path. However, Guccio, by this time an old man, viewed Aldo's ideas with skepticism. For him, taking the company outside Florence was unnecessarily complicated and, above all, very risky. So he refused. But Aldo, who couldn't accept a no for an answer, secretly went to the bank and requested a loan to open a store in Rome. Upon learning what his son had done, Guccio had no choice but to accept, and thus the first Gucci store outside Florence was opened. From this point on, everything was growth for the brand, which became an international company with the opening of its first store in New York in 1953. But the joy experienced by the Gucci family was overshadowed by the death of the brand's founder. Guccio Gucci died just 2 weeks after the opening of the store in New York. From this moment, power struggles began, and both Aldo and Rodolfo would start to devise their own plans to take control of Gucci. Aldo, Basco, and Rodolfo divided ownership of the company. And in case you are wondering what happened to the other children, well, as we mentioned at the beginning, Enzo died in childhood, Ugo decided to join the Italian fascist party, so before his death, his father offered him a significant sum of money for his future rights to the company, and Ugo sold his share. And Grimalda had no stake in the company because she was a woman. In this way, Aldo, Vasco, and Rodolfo took control, and when Vasco died, Aldo and Rodolfo each retained 50%. However, problems began to arise here because both Aldo and his sons believed that Rodolfo had not done enough to deserve a 50% stake in the company. While Aldo had dedicated himself to growing the family business, Rodolfo had devoted his life to the seventh art, appearing in more than 40 films without making significant contributions to Gucci's growth. The tension between Aldo's children and Maurizio, Rodolfo's only son, ignited the spark of discord that would end with the murder of one of the heirs of the Gucci family. Meanwhile, to gain an advantage, Aldo created a line of perfumes whose shares he wouldn't share equally with his brother Rodolfo. Instead, he would keep 80% to pass on to his sons. Oh yes, Aldo had a daughter, but like Grimalda, being a woman excluded her from participation in the company. The clashes between Aldo and Rodolfo were not only related to the distribution of the company, but also to their opposing visions. Aldo clung to his expansionist ideas, seeing Gucci's future as a global brand for the entire world, while Rodolfo wanted to build an exclusive brand dedicated to producing items for the wealthiest minorities. Meanwhile, Maurizio, son of Rodolfo, fell in love with Patrizia Reggiani, a woman with an atypical personality who saw in Maurizio an opportunity for fame and fortune that she couldn't pass up. At that time, Maurizio was not a man of great ambitions. He had dedicated himself to studying law and had not shown much interest in the empire his family had built. However, Patrizia thought differently and convinced Maurizio to fight for control of the company, especially when Rodolfo, his father, passed away. Patrizia's influence over Maurizio was so strong that he ended up becoming the president of Gucci. In Patrizia's own words, Maurizio was nothing more than a thing called Gucci that needed to be cleaned up and dressed. Patrizia used to consult a fortune teller before making any important decisions. In fact, it is said that she frequently consulted her particular fortune teller, Pina, for matters ranging from financial and business decisions to exorcising evil spirits from her private boat. On Aldo's side, things were not much better. Paolo, one of his sons, accused his brothers and father of hindering his growth in the company by ignoring his contributions. Tensions escalated to the point where Paolo became independent and sought to create his own version of the Gucci brand. However, Aldo filed a lawsuit against his son for intellectual property violation and thwarted his dreams for independence. Paolo, in turn, responded by turning his father over to the IRS, as he knew all his financial moves and knew that his father had been evading taxes amounting to $7 million. Aldo was found guilty and sent to the Eglin State Prison, a minimum security prison known among corrupt millionaires as the Fat Club, thanks to the amenities it exhibited. Maurizio, on the other hand, planned to take advantage of being the only child of Rodolfo. After his father's death, Maurizio had inherited 50% of the company's value, while the other 50% was diluted among Aldo and his children. Maurizio's plan would lead him to take control of Gucci, but his actions would arouse the anger of someone who would ultimately end his life. Maurizio's plan was in reality simple. He would gain control of the company by acquiring the shares that were currently held by Aldo and his sons, but he couldn't do it alone. So he reached out to InvestCorp, an investment fund with extensive experience in acquiring luxury companies. In fact, InvestCorp had already acquired Tiffany's, and when the opportunity arose to enter the Gucci business, they didn't hesitate and got to work. According to Savoy Hotel, CEO of InvestCorp, acquiring the shares from Aldo and his sons took time. They had to be patient and use all their experience to achieve the goal. Moreover, the cards played in favor of InvestCorp because the purchase offer was a perfect fit for family members who were facing significant economic problems at that time. For example, Paolo had run short of funds after his attempt to establish a Gucci clone went awry. Aldo, recently out of prison and nearing the end of his life, found in the sale of his shares a way out of all his concerns, especially upon learning that behind Investcorp's interest was his nephew's betrayal. In the end, Investcorp managed to gain control of 50% of Gucci's shares, and as agreed, Maurizio took the helm of the company. Once in his position, Maurizio began working to restore the brand's prestige worldwide. Thanks to Aldo's expansionist strategies, Gucci had lost much of its value and exclusivity. Counterfeit items flooded the streets, and the production of low-cost designs made the brand's creations accessible to everyone, depriving it of its air of exclusivity. Therefore, Maurizio eliminated advertising targeted at the middle class and halted the production of low-priced items. However, he did not give up his extravagant expenses or personal luxuries, and as a result, the company's finances did not recover. His overwhelming failure at the helm of the brand was exactly what Investcorp needed for their next move. They offered Maurizio $170 million for the 50% of the company in his possession, thus gaining total control of Gucci. It turns out that Maurizio, without knowing it, had led the wolf into his own house. And if that wasn't enough, the person chosen by Investcorp to lead the company was none other than Domenico De Sole, the lawyer of the Gucci family. By this time, Maurizio and Patrizia had already separated. On one occasion, Maurizio told Patrizia that he would be going on a business trip, but never returned. Instead, he simply sent a friend to inform Patrizia that their relationship had come to an end. The chaotic breakup of their marriage ignited Patricia's anger, and the payment of $170 million received by Maurizio in exchange for his stake in the company was the last straw. Patrizia became obsessed with her ex-husband, going so far as to hire spies to monitor his every move. Additionally, she repeatedly threatened Maurizio and, as expected, consulted Pina, her psychic advisor. Patrizia decided that she had to end Maurizio, and Pina helped her achieve her goal by connecting her with two hitmen who for around $300,000 would take care of the execution. On March 27, 1995, Maurizio was assassinated at the door of his office, and for 2 years the crime remained unsolved. However, information provided by an anonymous source eventually gave the police the leads they needed to track down the hitmen and identify Pina and Patrizia as the authors of the crime. In 1997, Pina, Patrizia, and the hitmen received their sentences and began serving their time in prison. However, a few years later, Patrizia was offered the possibility of parole if she obtained a job, to which she famously responded, "I haven't worked a single day in my life, and of course, I'm not going to start now." Nevertheless, she had no choice, and after accepting a position as an advisor at Bossart, she was released. Incredibly, in 2018, she managed to have a court rule in her favor, maintaining the prenuptial agreement she had reached with Maurizio. While she didn't get everything she wanted, she can now afford a luxurious lifestyle, including bison coats and city strolls with a parrot on her shoulder. As for Gucci, it no longer belongs to Investcorp, but is now part of the French-based Kering Group, which manages other globally recognized luxury brands.